Alright, so the hand is complete on this side here. Maybe I can get in a little bit closer here. So the trick is to curl the pinky finger, have all the knuckles, then create whatever separation between the knuckles that you want, depending on how the spread is over the ball. And then the side of the hand, you can see that there is a front and a back, or back and front, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, and then the thumb comes off about halfway through the back of the hand and comes down, and he's got it twisted around and create a knuckle joint going down so that it's kind of underneath the ball. And another notice, make sure that you create the side of the hand in there, and then the ball fits inside. So the ball is actually inside here, inside his hand. So you'll have a bit poking out, but that's it. So today we're going to work on the glove hand. And so there's the glove hand. And I'll show you how to do the webbing and all that stuff. You guys are supposed to have this all done, so I guess we'll have to get at it here. So the trick here is, once again, get the outside shape, and notice how it curves in here to create the wrist. So hopefully this wrist is the same size as this wrist on this side here. So if you haven't got that established, that's the first thing. You got to start from the wrist and work our way up. So then we'll create a notch for the top of the wrist and go on from there. So I'll try and draw it out on here a little bit. So there's the top of his sleeve, so I'm going to have to narrow down the wrist. That's the first thing I'm going to do, and then I'll start to shape the glove so that there is an actual circle in here where the top of the glove is going to be. So I'll go off and do that. Okay, so there it is. And the point I want to make here is that here is the arm, because remember he's extending it, and there's quite a bend in it, so that the sleeve is down a little bit. And then you have to just start at that it gets a little bit more bulbous in this area here on both sides, so that before you get to the glove, in order to indicate that there is a wrist in there. And can you see it there? Maybe that's a little bit better. So I haven't put this sharp cut in yet in my rough out. So get that shape there. So now I'm going to take a V-tool, and I'll get that established, and then I'll pass it around. So I'm going to get a V-tool in here and create that sharp edge where the bottom part of the glove is going to be. Okay, so then it looks like that now. I've got the arc in there, so you can see that I've got to remove some wood in here to create this shape coming down here, and we got a big hunk in here that don't forget, you got to leave your hat, but you can create the edge here. And I'm going to take that sharp edge off of there before I go any further. So I've got the undercut that I need and the arc that I need, so create this shape, and take that little bit of an edge off. So it looks kind of like that. You'll see that I put a mark up here because it's hanging down. I want to get rid of that little notch there. But the most important part is I've got it tapered here so that it joins into the hand. That's a wrist, I guess. And now we've got to manipulate this hat so that we got to work that transition between the side of the glove here and the hat. So we're going to have to fool around with that hat a little bit to get it worked in. And you can see that it's fairly shaped on this side here. We've got the arc coming back, but I don't have it on this side here, so I'm going to have to do that. So I'll work in there with my knife and try and get that established. So just try and get the balance between one side and the other. So by shaping the hat, by rounding the hat so that it more or less matches what I had on the other side, and now I've just put a V cut in there, And you can see how the glove has to come up, and if it's going to rest on its head, I'm going to have to take a little bit of material off of here in order to make that all mold and shape together. So I'll take this piece off in here, get rid of some of this here, so that then I can shape the top of his hat. It'll create a hollow in there eventually. So if you see my finished one here, you can see what I mean. It's got to be resting on his head, but I'm going to remove some of this material in here so that the glove and the hat is separated. Keep moving here. So there we are. We've got the side of the glove established on this side, the side of the glove established on that side. So that's my parameters. Make sure you still maintain this round shape coming around here. We're going to eventually have a point out here, and you can see that there's a fair bit of extra material here. It's thicker, but that's thicker here because we got to put a finger in here. Okay, so that means that everything around it is going to go down. So the next step, if you take a look at the diagram here, where are we? So the next step, you can see we've got to create a hollow in here so that we can establish this finger. Remember, the finger is going to be the highest element there, so that again, we're working like a relief carving where we got to remove the wood around it. So before I can determine where that finger is going to be, I've got to create the hollow in here. So if you look at my finished one, you'll see what I mean. I've got to create this hollow in here. But see how the finger has to be part of the hand in behind. It doesn't just flop over. We've got to create the shape in here. Okay, so we got to only do the C on this side, the C on that side, and material. We can do the whole bottom, but only part of the top part of that. We got to, in other words, leave some material inside. We can't just automatically hollow that whole thing out. We got to leave that finger in there. Harder than what you think. So just guesstimate as to where you want that to be. Okay, so we've got to establish a thickness because that's a belt that comes across there. So I'm just going to arbitrarily pick a spot, say that's the bottom part and that's the top part. It can be a bit wider, and maybe we should make it a bit wider, but there. And it goes over to the side, and this is where a little bit of artistic license comes in. So then I got to leave that finger there. Okay? Do you follow all that? So I'm going to pick a gouge that kind of fits the size of that. And maybe I can get one, maybe I can't. That's too big. Yeah, that one will do. So I'm going to jab that in. So that creates one side of it. I'm going to jab it in on the other side. That creates my stop cut. And I'll use a V-tool to carve out the bottom. Carve out the top, leaving that finger sticking up in the air. Got to give the guy the finger. I guess the next question is, how deep do you go in? Well, the thickness of the leather of the glove is how far you go in. Notice I'm only removing the wood on the bottom to start with. Now I can start to remove some of the wood in the hollow. The finger is going to be in here somewhere. Leave your V-tool, put it on the side. Make that a little bit bigger. Very roughly, there it is. Okay, so then I drew on the finger. And it certainly looks a little bit bigger than what it needs to be, but that's good because we want to be able to shape that eventually. So now we got to remove the wood on either side. We got to remove the wood all the way around that in order to make it stand out. So as we do that, then you're going to find that we got to drop the hollow in here down a little bit in order to maintain that depth in there. So once again, I'll just use a V-tool to go up the side of it on both sides and try and get some depth to it. Remember, it is a finger, so it's got to be a certain thickness, particularly at the end. Where it joins into the glove, it can be hollowed, like the pressure of the finger could hollow the leather underneath it. But up here, it's wide open. It's going to stick out all the way up here. Okay? So there it is with the finger isolated. I'll pass this around and you can have a look at it. But then after I get that finger isolated, the next step would be to round off and take some material and recreate the top of that glove one more time. And there it is with the rest of the material removed. And all I did was use this number 5 20mm, and I worked it up to just get that shape. It gives me that perfect shape all the way around. So now I've removed the wood all the way around, and at the point here, at the top here, you had the cutout left an edge. Well, once you remove that wood, the edge is gone, and so now you've got just a flat edge here now. So that kind of gives you the idea where that shape goes. Remove all the saw marks that are in here, and that'll help to emphasize the shape. And I can see where I haven't got this done here, so I'll come down and manipulate that a little bit. Looks like I have to go the other way on this. There. That looks kind of like the way it should be. Okay. So now you can see that we've got to spend a bit more time now and create the hand inside the glove here. So the glove has, as I mentioned before, has a thickness to it. So you've got to drop this glove down, or drop the hand down inside the glove. And if you look at the profile from here, going, let's see if we can get it, from there going up, you can see that it has to match, that is going to be the back of the hand here, and this is going to be the back of the hand in here. Okay, so you have to get that profile more or less going the same. In the finished one here, yeah, you can see it pretty close there, so that you can see where I've had to drop it down, and so that the back of the hand appears to go down underneath the glove, and the glove has a thickness to it. That strap has a thickness to it. So you have to, in order to accomplish that, you have to lower this section in here. So I'm going to do that with a combination of a knife V-tool. So there it is with the depth established in here, and you can see that I've tried to mimic the shape of the glove here, because the back of his hand is going to be curved as well. So I've made it deeper on this side and deeper on that side, so that it creates that curve of his hand, the back of his hand in there. Okay. So now the next step is to decide on the shape and width of the finger. So in order to make this finger here coincide with the other hand, so pick out a finger on the other side here that is the width that you want it to have, and then take that width there and address this finger here and make it the same size. Does that make sense to you guys? You try and keep the fingers all the same size. And we'll do that, and then we'll break for coffee. So there's my finger. Pretty tough to see now that I've taken the marks off it. So there it is. And we'll stop there, and we'll have our coffee. All right, so there it is with the finger protruding. So what I'm going to do is first of all, I'm going to round the end. I want to get down to the end here, and I want to give it a shape. So I picked out a gouge here, and you can see that it's got a curvature to it. This happens to be a number 7, 6 millimeter. And so I'm going to use it on the end, and I'm just going to create a stop cut on the end. Take it away. So there it is without the chips removed, but it'll give you the idea what I'm trying to get here. So we're just trying to round the end of it. I'm established the width of my finger by comparing it with the other hand. So that right away starts to make it look like it is a real finger. And if you tilt the gouge as you're putting it in, and you tilt it underneath, that gives it the shape going underneath. Hard to see. There you go. All right, so that creates that shape right away. I'll just remove the material around it. Use the same gouge, just put it in, give it a twist, out comes the material. So now we got to get some joints going here, and where's this finger? You can't, it's hard to see in the diagram. Where are we? Go wide. It's hard to see in the diagram exactly what I'm trying to get here, but you can see that there's little notches there, a notch on both sides, so indicating the size of the finger. So if you look at your own finger, okay, and you're going from, take this big finger as the example. So this is half the distance of that. So that's very easy then to find that distance there. So we're going to divide that in half there. And the rest of it it's about 2/3 of the distance down to create the back of the fingernail. So there's the 2 notches there, or the 2 knuckles if you want to call it. So I'm going to take a gouge, and I'm just going to create a hollow, one right there and one right there. And that then elevates the knuckle a little bit. I'll get rid of my pencil mark. So there it is, and a bit of a side view kind of gives you a better idea. It doesn't have to, very, very subtle, doesn't have to be very much. I want to round over the edges. I don't want to leave the edges sharp. So now the fingernail, and I just do it off the top, and I'm going to just turn the V tool on its side to create an edge. There's one side. There's the other side. If you want to give the fingernail some depth underneath, you remove it underneath here. The only other thing I'd like to do is create a nice stop cut in here, so I get the definition between the side of the finger. Get in there. So you got that nice shadow in there now, and it makes all the difference in the world as far as elevating that finger a little bit. Now the finger can be rounded more if you want to have it rounded more. I often will take that same gouge and I'll round over the edges by working the gouge upside down. A fingernail as well, it can be curved over. All of those things can be worked in there. Take off a bit more material on the inside here to make that fingernail stand up a little bit, but we're talking just slivers. Okie dokie. Okay. Okay, let's, we got the finger protruding. Now we got to create some of these shapes in here. And if you take a look at the diagrams, you can pretty well guesstimate how these are to go together. So the first thing you can see is that we've got this strap coming across the bottom. Well, we've more or less created that already, except for we just haven't created the divisions yet. So there's a button here, I guess we'll call it a button, and then there's another symbol over here. But more importantly, we've got a straight cut that comes down and around. This straight cut here is what I'm referring to. So what we've got to do is we've got to create that to start with, and it doesn't come all the way. It stops before this long protrusion here. All right. So, and that comes off more or less the edge of the opening. So if you use the edge of the opening as your start point for that particular cut, and then, nope, sorry. There you go. So use that as your start, and then we'll just create another one coming across there like that. So we're going to draw on these things, and you'll notice that I didn't go all the way up here, and you'll see why in a few minutes. So now the next thing is how many notches there are in between the finger and there. So we've got that notch there, which we've already created, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I got to divide this into 3. So where are we? There we go. So we got to divide it into 3. So divide it in half, and that's the first mark. That's the second one, and there's the third. And if it doesn't look right, move it over and use your eraser. Okay, and again, notice I didn't go all the way up. You could lightly bring it up, I guess.
3 or 4? That one's not the finger.
Yeah, this one out here is not a finger. Okay. And again, if it doesn't look right, you want to make this hole bigger here, and move it over and create more space in here, you can do that. All right. So then on the other side, we've only got basically one, and where have I got that? That you can see that. So if you look over here, we've only got the one coming down here, and and you can manipulate that and change it however you want. So I'm just going to arbitrarily say that's it right there. Okay. So the other part that I mentioned was the strap coming around. And this strap I'm referring to is right here. You can see it better maybe on this side here. So I want to create that shape in there.
Can't see that.
Oops, sorry. Put that shape in there. Okay. It comes across like that. Okay. And ends up, where are we? Right over. So basically all we're doing is drawing on these features. I'm going to take a small V tool and I'm just going to remove my pencil marks with putting the V tool up in the normal way, and that'll create the necessary shadow that I need to don't have to go too deep. We're just creating a feature in the glove. This one goes up. Yeah, it doesn't take much to create that. Now this notch that came across here has to end up somewhere over here. And then I'm going to turn it and bring it up. Okay. Now I'm going to very lightly put these marks up to the top. And this one here happens to go all the way. Forgot to put that in there. There's one more that's kind of hidden under the finger here. Particularly like that location there, so I'm going to change that. I'll move it over a little bit further so I got more space over there. That looks like a bunch of lines on there, but you'll see how it works out here in a minute. We'll just do one so that it'll give you an idea how this cross hatching works. So it's out close to the end, and can I come in a little bit closer, I wonder? There. So I want to bring that cross hatching across like that, and there's going to be an end to it. Now the next one comes back, and it has to leave this one here high. So can you kind of see it there? Now I'm going to pick out a gouge. Now you can use a number 9 or a number 11. It would be in material, and the 3mm was the size that I used on my finished one. And so if you put it in and just jab the ends, where are we? Right there. So if I put it in and just jab the end like that,
Oh, I see.
okay, I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to do it on the same on the other side. And I'm going to do the other two while I'm at it. So that's all the ends already established. Okay, so now I want this one here coming this way on. I want it to be left high, so I'm going to do it first. And I'm going to just put my knife in there and bring it to join in. So then all I got to do is remove a little bit of the material on the outside, like yay.
A little bit to your left.
There we go. All right. So like that, so that now that one sits higher. Notice all I did was put a stop cut in there and remove a bit of the material coming this way. That makes it sit up, that hatch sitting up. So now when you've got your stop cut in there, put your knife in against that stop cut, jab it in, jab it in. The same on the other side. So in order to make them elevated, you've got to remove a bit of the wood around it, right? So you're making little triangular cuts in there, basically, is all you're doing. And then to make them more elevated on the outside, I use that same gouge, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to remove a little bit of the material that behind that stop cut that I done. Notice I put it in and give it a turn,
A little
and
to
then,
your left.
oh, there we go. Put it in, give it a turn, and that pops that piece out. So all of that work there seems tedious. I guess in one sense it is tedious, but all you're doing is you're creating that hatch, and it does a very good job of creating that leather hatch that's needed there. Take your V-tool now, and where that's going to join in, you can create the rest of that notch that comes down. It also goes over the top and down the outside, so that the notch, the separation comes up and goes right over the outside. Okay, go a little bit wider so you can see it maybe better on this guy here, where the hatch is there. Okay, and then the notch continues right around the outside, inside the glove as well. Okay, so that's very tedious, but that's the way you do all of these, and one's just about touches the next one and so on. So these guys on the outside here are done in exactly the same way. I'll use a different gouge just for demonstration. So this is a number 11 3mm, and so it completes a complete circle. And those are a little bit wider. So once again, just have to put your knife in there to join your cuts together. And these don't have to protrude very much. Very gently remove some material. Use the same gouge, or you could use a, this is a 3mm number 7, and it comes in and you can just remove the wood around the outside. Okay, same thing on the other end. Another one goes in down here, of course, as well. Okay, the button is another one, and I love this number 7 3mm for making buttons. It just works so nice, and you'll notice that it's got a fingernail end on it, and that allows me to turn it in the wood. So if I put it in, give it a jab, then I can turn it in the wood. See how it creates that circle? Go back, put it in. And there's a button. No problem whatsoever. Depending on the size, if you want to have like this one over on this side here that's a bigger one, you could use a bigger gouge and accomplish the same thing. That's kind of the whatchamacallit badge, the maker's badge, typically would go over here. So this happens to be a number 9 9mm. So put it in and lift it on one side. And there it is. Okay. So what you had on, what you have on this side is two of those notches, and if you turn it over, it's the same thing is on this side as well. So just follow the diagram, and it's pretty straightforward on the diagram as to what you do there. But the trick here is get the hatches done and then complete the notch all the way around, and you're going to end up separating all those fingers in the glove by having the notches come right around, and you can even take them on the inside a little bit if you want. The other thing to note is now that you've got your glove situated, now you can hollow out all this in here, complete the shape of the hat, get it curved around, use whatever gouge works. I decided I wanted to have that shape of a hat. Some hats have a kind of a flat surface here where the logo for the like Blue Jays in our case would sit on there. But that's just get the hat shaped. Now that you've got the glove and the hand more or less shaped, there's no reason why you can't complete it. Okay. So now just to finish off this here a little bit, want to make it look like it's sitting proud. So you remove a little bit of wood around the outside. Be careful, you'll knock that off real easy. Just all kinds of little features you can put in. If you want to make it look like it's a real button, then put a little notch in there and remove that so that it gives it the idea that it was in fact a notch for it to join in. And that's just clean up after that.